A big smile, actually.
Small smile.
Small smile, okay, yeah.
Only a small smile for the cameras. A relaxed George Galloway, the veteran campaigner skilled in avoiding slip-ups.
Do not get Amy's Thai massage in the picture.
Labour activists here had originally calculated that the arrival of Mr Galloway would prove their biggest challenge in this by-election. In the end, their own candidate may have multiplied his chances of winning.
How do you feel about what's gone on with Labour? You must feel like the cat that's got the cream.
So to speak. You couldn't make it up. Anti-Semitism has no place here.
It's something you've been accused of in the past.
The supporters of Israel have an interest in conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, and they do it all the time.
But do you understand why some Jewish people might feel fearful?
Look, one of the problems about the boy who cried wolf is that when there was a real wolf, nobody believed him.
The main priority is just getting these out as quickly as possible.
They're feeling quietly confident here at Galloway HQ. They're drawing up a list of wards which they'll be targeting. Many of them have large numbers of Muslim voters who have fallen out of love with Labour. And the Labour Party knows, they recognise this threat. In fact, many people here say that's why they got into this mess in the first place.
Roy, you keep him warm.
Azhar Ali is a long-standing councillor from the right of the party. Despite a recording that emerged on Sunday of him saying Israel had allowed the attack of October the 7th, Labour stood by their man. They eventually U-turned after another clip was released in which Mr Ali said this about the suspension of the MP Andy MacDonald.
The media, and some of the people in the media from certain Jewish quarters were given about what he said. Graham, you can't say this. Graham, you can't say this, but I'll say it.
I took decisive action. It is a huge thing to withdraw support for a Labour candidate during the course of a by-election. It's a tough decision, a necessary decision. But when I say the Labour Party has changed under my leadership, I mean it.
The Labour leader denied accusations that those on the left, including Diane Abbott and Kate Osamor, have been dealt with more harshly than those like Azhar Ali. This afternoon, the party acted swiftly to suspend another election candidate, Graham Jones, after a recording was released of him.
Israel again, you know.
Although Keir Starmer has claimed that he's changed the Labour Party, in fact he has not. And tonight we hear yet another candidate who's in running for a different seat may have also had to be suspended. Clearly things are not right and within the Labour Party. And the interesting thing is Keir Starmer acted not from some sort of deep principle on this, but out of political expediency when the media pressure just got too hot for him.
In Rochdale, Mr Ali's name will still appear under Labour on the ballot box. Election rules means it's too late to change it. But where does that leave voters in this town? The Lib Dems and the Conservatives told us they'll focus on local issues. At the sweet shop, we meet Mohammed Saki.
I personally am debating whether to vote for Labour again. I've been a lifelong Labour supporter.
And is Gaza an important issue for you?
Of course it is, 100% it is.
The San Remo Cafe is something of an institution in Rochdale, run since 1971 by Anna and Antonio. Here we meet the third former Labour candidate on the ballot, now standing for Reform, Simon Danshuk. He was expelled from Labour after he exchanged sexual texts with a 17-year-old.
You're one of 3 ex-Labour people who are standing. A lot of people feel like, what's the difference, what's the choice here?
Well, I think there's some real choice. There's no doubt about it that people are disillusioned with the mainstream parties. The Conservatives have let them down nationally in terms of illegal immigration, which comes upon the doorstep a heck of a lot, and also in terms of the economy. But they've also been let down locally by the Labour Council.
After a turbulent 2 days, the biggest threat to all parties may now be apathy. Some here telling me they're not sure if they'll bother to vote at all. As we speak, we understand that there's a Labour exec meeting going on to decide the fate of Graham Jones. He's under administrative suspension. The meeting will decide whether to end his candidacy. And That'll cause a lot of anger within the party because people like Diane Abbott and Kate Ossomo have been waiting months for a decision in their case. Graham Jones and Azhar Ali were seen as Starmer supporters. It's fair to say they didn't have the support of some on the left of the party. And that leads to another question that some within the top of the Labour Party will be asking: who leaked these recordings? Who took the decision to leak them day after day? Could anything else come out? Which other councillors or candidates may have been present at that meeting? And what does it say about the way Keir Starmer is regarded by some within his own party? The by-election will be held next week. It was caused by the death of the sitting Labour MP. There's a tradition that they're not usually held until after the funeral. Labour took the decision to ignore that tradition and rush the by-election, something they may well now be regretting.
Darshna, thank you very much indeed. And the full list of all those standing in the Rochdale by-election is on your screens now. Polling takes place on Thursday, the 29th of February. Well, earlier I was joined by Azhar Ali. She's a broadcaster and a former advisor to Gordon Brown and Ed Miliband, who is shortly to become a Labour member of the House of Lords. I started by asking her whether she thought Keir Starmer had been ruthless in his reaction to the allegations.
This is a very important issue. He said it's one of his missions in the Labour Party to root out anti-Semitism in the party, and he has got to act very, very firmly and very quickly with people. There was some criticism that he took a bit longer over Azhar Ali, then that decision was made. We heard this afternoon reports of a conversation with Graham Jones, and the party has moved quite quickly. And I think it's really, really important for Keir Starmer to do this, even when the stakes are quite high, for example, with this Rochdale by-election. So the situation is, it's not great at all.
Right, and of course, Graham Jones was dispatched, suspending an investigation very quickly indeed. With Azhar Ali, it took a few days, and Keir Starmer basically defended him just a day or so before he was actually kicked out. So, I mean, shambolic on one side and then utterly ruthless on the other.
Well, I mean, perhaps lessons were learned from the first case, and I think the right decision was arrived at possibly a bit late, because I think the original comments made by Ali were pretty despicable and crossed a line. And I think the Labour Party has got to act quickly, and it's also got to look like it's acting with consistency. I think one of the problems with the Azhar Ali situation was, on the one hand, you did have for a day the party sort of saying actually it was fine for him to still be a candidate. And that was inconsistent with some other high-profile cases within the parliamentary Labour Party, including MPs like Diane Abbott, Kate Ossomo, Andy MacDonald. So I think that they did have to change their position.
But in satisfying those voters and members of the Labour Party who are afraid of anti-Semitism in its ranks, is it making it impossible for others to criticise what Israel is doing in Gaza at the moment?
I don't think that's the case. I do think that many people in the Jewish community, many Jewish MPs within the Labour Party, many Jewish members across the Labour movement have got huge criticism for what Israel is doing at the moment, and huge criticism for Benjamin Netanyahu as well. And they would often be the first people to say that the actions that he is doing and the way he does his politics is not something they hold any truck with. But I think there is a way of being critical about Israel which is done in a way which is not anti-Semitic. And I think that is something that it is possible to do, and it should be possible to do.
Even if it is possible to do that, these actions taken by Keir Starmer will alienate a lot of Muslim British voters, or indeed young voters, who are very much on the side of Palestine in all this.
Well, I think you've got to be slightly careful of conflating, again, any criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. I know lots of people who are absolutely heartbroken, myself included, in terms of what is happening in Gaza at the moment. But that doesn't mean that to do that, you have to be anti-Semitic. But what I do accept is that this discussion, these are difficult conversations to have right now with the backdrop of what's going on. But we do need anybody who wants to be a Labour MP to kind of understand where the line is, because they are expecting to be leaders in their community, and they should kind of understand where the line is.
Azhar Ali, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, Jamie Driscoll is the independent mayor for the North of Tyne region and joins us now from Jarrow. He resigned from the Labour Party last summer after being blocked from running for another mayoral role. Thanks very much for coming on the programme, Jamie Driscoll. I mean, Keir Starmer is doing what he said he would do, which is to impose discipline on his party, isn't he?
Well, discipline has to be consistent, and that's the issue. But is this really discipline, or would this have all been swept under the carpet if the Daily Mail hadn't released it? And that's what I'm concerned about. You know, it worries me. There's a lot of very good people in the Labour Party who've been consistent campaigners against racism in all its forms. But I'll give you another example. A Labour candidate running against me in the North East has an anti-GRT, Gypsy Roma Traveller, tweet out there. There's been complaints in the Labour Party by many people. It's been swept under the carpet, nothing heard about for 6 months. And if you're going to try to lead the country, you have to give people confidence.
Okay.
We look at what's happened from the Conservative government with Boris Johnson lying and trying to cover up all the things around the COVID parties. Then, you know, people need confidence in their government. And I think my role is to protect the North.
We can't hear from the candidate that you just mentioned. So let's stick to Graham Jones and Azhar Ali. I mean, even if there was an accusation that it took them some time to get, to suspend Azhar Ali, on Graham Jones, they were being very consistent, weren't they? I mean, it just took a couple of hours.
Well, that's it. And that feeds into this narrative that you only get action when something is a hot story in the press. We need long-term decision-making to solve the problems that Britain's facing, whether they're to do with economic growth and the U-turn on the 28 billion of green investment, or any other of the problems that we're facing. And if we only see action when it becomes a hot political issue, where is the confidence in a future government? And I do think they are going to be the government. And, I'm no fan of this.
But isn't that the point? Isn't that the point, Jamie Driscoll? He wants to impose discipline on his party because he knows what the cost of not doing that looks like from previous elections, and he wants to get into power. And at the moment, that is the most important consideration.
No, I don't think we are seeing discipline. I think we're seeing a huge amount of inconsistency, huge amount of factional fighting. If you look at my record in the North East, creating over 5,000 jobs, building over 2,000 homes, all without putting a penny on the council tax, that would have been a fantastic example for getting into power of Labour's fiscal responsibility. But instead, I was blocked for factional reasons. So this isn't actually about doing the right thing. And so many people are disenchanted with politics at the moment. We just want someone to tell the truth. It would have been far better if they'd come out and said, look, we made a mistake. We didn't know about this guy. It's just wrong. We're blocking him. And when you see Kate Osamor blocked for saying, look, there should not be a genocide in Gaza, which the International Court of Justice is also saying, then there is this huge double standard.
All right, in 10 seconds, would you encourage those people who've been suspended also as running as independent candidates like you?
I think we're going to see that. We're seeing it already. I think is it Andrew Feinstein's running against Keir Starmer. We're seeing Emma Dent-Coad running in Kensington. I think there's a lot. There's a lot in local government where Labour's under pressure.